Hey, Mr. Mayor, we are live.
Great, thank you for that. So today is July 20th, 2022. The time is 7:12 p.m. and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park regular city council meeting. Pastor Jackson, would you mind leading us in an invocation?
Sugar too. Did you take your blood sugar?
Yes.
What was it?
All right. Can you hear me now? We thank you that we come in the name of the Lord and asking your advice in touching the city council, the mayor, and all of those that are involved in making the city a better city. The school district, Lord God, I thank you for touching them and helping our children, Lord. Our police department, Lord, that has a tremendous job that's rolling around in the city to serve and protect, and our fire department as well, Lord. We need your guidance. And above all, Lord, we need our parents and the children coming together in unity, breaking down the power of gangs and homelessness and drugs in the city. And you know how to do it, and we're asking you to do it for us. So we give you thanks for everything that you're doing. In the name of the Lord we pray, amen.
So everybody can put their right hand over their heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may go ahead and take a seat. City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Alejandra Avila. Here. Councilmember Monica Garcia. Councilmember Monica Garcia. Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian.
Here.
Mayor Manuel Estrada.
Here. Thank you for that, City Clerk. City Attorney, it's my understanding we have not closed our closed session, but is there anything to report out as of now?
Nothing to report out as of now, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you for that. Announcement. And then we do have Marie Contreras with us, our city treasurer. Marie, how are you doing?
Good evening.
Good, good. It's always good to hear you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm glad you can join us. So we do have our
Of
announcements.
course.
The City Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening, and each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. We do have some proclamations, commendations, and presentations, and we do have a new staff introduction, which is for our City Clerk Specialist. Chief Deputy City Clerk, you mind giving a brief intro?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I am pleased to introduce Crystal Roman. She is our part-time city clerk specialist. She is a resident born and raised in the city of Baldwin Park. She began an internship with the city of South El Monte, in 2017, and shortly thereafter was hired in 2018 with the Department of Senior Services. Crystal comes with 5 years of municipal experience assisting the organization in various capacities. Last year, she pursued her passion, which is helping kids and families with disabilities, providing kids with ABA behavioral therapy on her spare time. She's expressed her excitement for this new chapter in her life to work for the city of Baldwin Park, helping and giving back to her community. So we welcome Crystal to the city of Baldwin Park. Crystal, if you'd like to come up.
is Crystal. I'm excited to work with the City of Baldwin Park. I'll be here helping out Lulu if you guys need anything. And I'm eager and excited to work with you guys. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to help, and I'm here.
Wanna take a nice picture? And while she gets ready for her picture, we're very excited to have Crystal on board. It's always exciting not only to grow and expand our team, but it's even more exciting when we expand it with people who actually live in the city and who understand the needs of our constituents. So it's pretty much constituents taking care of constituents, and I think that's pretty big.
And as a former city clerk, I know that the city clerk's office needed another person for years. So I'm excited that finally we have somebody to help ease the workload for Lulu, because it is a lot of work, especially during election time. So welcome.
And then just to confirm with Sam, we'll be presenting your the assistant planner. Is that? Oh, it's Ron. We'll be presenting the assistant planner at our next.
That is correct, Mayor. Yes.
Gotcha. All right.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, can I close in memory of one of our oldest senior citizens from Baldwin Park that we all took advantage of her corner fence, JoJo? I don't know, I don't have any information about her, but she passed away, and she'll be greatly, greatly missed. She was a super lady, very involved, and may she be resting in peace.
Yes. Thank you, Marie. Thank you for that. We definitely will close on behalf of JoJo, recognizing some of the people that lived here the longest and have lived here even before the city lived here. We would definitely want to recognize them for their work towards the community.
Thank you.
So, Sam, I believe you have a presentation along with the COG regarding the Regional Food Recovery Program.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, council members and staff and public. So yeah, we have a short presentation that is going to be performed by Alex Fung of the San Gabriel Valley COG. So in April of this year, the city received a local assistance grant from CalRecycle in the amount of $108,000. The grant is given to cities to kickstart or initiate their SB 1383 programs. As you may know, SB 1383 is an aggressive and transformative piece of legislation on how cities and the state deals with organics. So one of the things that we want to do with this money is join the effort of the COG to establish regional food recovery programs. And so we invited Alex Fung to come and speak to this effort. And item number 6, if approved, will allow the CEO to sign an MOA and join the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much, Sam. And good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thank you so much for inviting the San Gabriel Valley COG to provide a quick 5-minute presentation on our Regional Food Recovery Program. My name is Alex, a Senior Management Analyst and Project Manager with the COG. If you would like to proceed to the next slide, please. So as Sam had mentioned, at the recommendation of our member cities, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments launched the San Gabriel Valley Regional Food Recovery Program last year to support our cities to comply with SB 1383 regulations. If you click next. So the program included 14 participating cities originally, and we provided services to help them assess their potential food recovery agencies and organizations, and those organizations' capacities for the cities to utilize for SB 1383 compliance efforts. We also helped the 14 cities to identify their local Tier 1 and Tier 2 edible food waste generators and check to see if they're in compliance with SB 1383. We also help our cities to prepare guidance and assisted with outreach efforts. And we're currently implementing inspections and enforcement programs on behalf of those 14 cities. Next slide. So as we were assessing the capacity, the food recovery capacity of the 14 cities, we came to find out that there's approximately enough capacity for the 14 cities to be able to recover and redistribute the donated food that are being donated by Tier 1 and Tier 2 businesses. As you can see, the 14 cities, which I do want to note that it does not include the city of Baldwin Park, because this study was conducted last year. But overall, I think with the 14 cities, it still shows a pretty good glimpse of what the region, the San Gabriel Valley region looks as a whole. So for these 14 cities, they have enough food recovery organizations like food banks and food pantries to recover about 15 million to 17 million pounds of food every year. And our study that was concluded was that within those 14 cities, and based on the amount of food that is being donated by those 14 cities' local businesses, there seems to be enough capacity to handle the food donations for those 14 cities for now. But I do want to stress that not a lot of businesses were donating food at the time of the study. And as SB 1383 enforcement starts, which as some of us may know, SB 1383 actually requires a lot of businesses to start donating food so that they can be recovered for human consumptions. As more and more businesses donate food over time, then the available capacity will rapidly diminish if like our region doesn't do anything about increasing the food recovery capacity. If you click next, please. So should existing processing capacity of the food recovery organizations remain unchanged, those 14 cities would not have the capacity needed to recover the additional amount of donated food in the near future. So that is a very important thing for us to note here. So acknowledging that CalRecycle, as Sam had mentioned, was providing a non-competitive grant funding for cities and counties to comply with SB 1383, we are working with San Gabriel Valley cities, including the city of Baldwin Park, to seek funds from this program so that we can expand our regional food recovery programs efforts. If you click next. And this expansion would include establishing sub-regional food recovery hubs across the San Gabriel Valley so that we can increase our region's food recovery capacity and infrastructure. We also plan on continuing education and outreach activities under this expansion to educate our businesses, our food recovery organizations, and residents about the bill's food recovery regulations from summer of this year to March 2024. Next slide, please. So we have received interest from 9 cities to participate in expanding our food recovery program, which includes the city of Baldwin Park, along with the other 8 cities listed on the screen here. Next, please. And I do want to quickly go over what's the sub-regional food recovery hub like, what it is. Creating a hub would basically include evaluating existing food banks and food pantries and see if they have the potential to serve and expand into a bigger food recovery organization that can turn into a hub. So once identified, we will be using our program funds to provide the necessary equipment to increase the selected food recovery organization's capacity in preparation of that organizations to become a hub. And once the equipments are purchased and installed, that hub will facilitate obtaining food donations from the local businesses and redistribute the donated food to the local community. And we note that in the program's expansions, at least one hub will be located in Baldwin Park and another hub will be located in Monterey Park. Next slide, please. And this should be my last slide here, but it just talks about our timelines. For June, our 9 cities work to secure the grant funds from Cal Recycle. It is great news to hear that all 9 of the cities received the grant funds. This month, we're working to obtain the necessary approvals to execute agreements between the COG and the cities. And next month, we plan on hiring a firm to help with implementing the expansion of the food recovery program, which again includes establishing sub-regional food recovery hubs and conducting additional food recovery outreach activities. And with that, that concludes my presentations. I can turn it back to Sam or answer any questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alex. And so I do want to say that the item is number 6. It is on the agenda if council should want to pull it and discuss it further. Out of the $108,000 that were awarded to the city, we are pledging about $78,000 of that for the food recovery expansion program. The rest of the funds are going to be to have a more localized outreach, not just regarding the food recovery program, but other SB 1383 components. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Great. Seeing that there are no more questions, we will move on to public communication. First, I just want to acknowledge that we do have our Baldwin Park Unified School District Superintendent, Froyla Mendoza, here with us today. Thank you for joining us. And I do see our former council member, Gina Ayala. So, City Clerk, who is looking to speak today?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 individuals who requested to speak via phone, and they are Jerry Briseño and Mr. Paul Cook. So we'll start with Jerry Briseño.
Okay. Well, good evening, City Council members, City staff, and community members of Baldwin Park. My name is Jerry Briseño. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the Baldwin Park Business Association. I'm actually calling in regards to comment today regarding the proposed healthcare worker minimum wage measure. As a trusted Baldwin Park community partner, we're very concerned about the unintended effects of the proposed measure. Enacting measures that implement higher wages at some facilities while excluding the vast majority of others is not only unfair, but it also deepens the inequities in our healthcare system. Our thoughts are, since the proposed initiative failed to gather enough signatures, we urge council to hold on implementing ordinance. And if the council does decide to consider an ordinance, which we strongly urge against, a thorough economic analysis should be conducted so voters have a better understanding of how the measure will impact the Baldwin Park community. For the most part, that's something that we wanted to share on behalf of the Baldwin Park Business Association, and thank you guys for your time.
The next speaker is Mr. Paul Cook.
3 minutes. Okay. Mayor and council members, this is Paul Cook, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my mother. My mother's Chi Cook, and she's lived here for 38 years. And we just wanted to say how disappointed and upsetting it was to have the worst police service that Baldwin Park could provide. At 8:30 in the morning on Friday, this past Friday, Oscar Alarcon was called to an accident. Somebody hit my mother. She's over 70 years old. She's just a little senior citizen, ideal resident of Baldwin Park, like I said, for 38 years. And guess what? Oscar Alarcon couldn't even take a report. He couldn't be bothered. Not only could he not be bothered, he didn't even properly permit the young man who hit my mother. His name is Christian Ayala, who wants to apply for a Baldwin Park police position, to give the correct information. He gave partial information. Oscar Alarcon did a terrible job, and I had to follow up to get all that information. I told the police chief, I told Chief Lopez about it. Guess what he says? He says that he's going to look into it. That's what he tells everybody. And you want to know something? That's a dishonest answer. You know, Chief Lopez, I'm finding, is lacking the leadership to lead this city. I'm not confident he could do a sea change. He needs severe improvement, and the public that I think I represent thinks he's unfit to run this city. You know, this city is becoming like Nuevo Tijuana, which is like New Tijuana. People are afraid to go out at night. The police, his bad culture and his bad lack of leadership is seeping into the rank and file of the police, and it's basically making them incompetent. It's making them lazy, and it's not protecting or providing or serving the citizens of this city. So I'm requesting, if things don't change, that he just be fired. We need somebody. I don't think old dogs can learn new tricks, but even more so, I don't think he's going to be able to have the character, the vision, the purpose. The police officers are losing their purpose here. They don't understand why they exist, and we need somebody to hammer that message home for them. So that's my message, and I just think that, you know, this city is becoming too corrupt, starting with the leadership at top, and we don't want this to become like Tijuana here. We live in the United States, okay? So, you know, things have to really start shaping up pretty soon, and there just needs to be a new leadership. So thank you very much, and hope this message doesn't land on deaf ears. You guys hired already another corrupt person, Ron Garcia. So you know what? There's going to be consequences. There will. You guys think that you could get away with all this stuff, but we know everything you're doing. We know that Rose Camp's cooking the books. We know why she's cooking the books. So, and we also know that Oscar Alarcon was hired by Huerta and Patino and Rial. You know, and they're some of the most crooked cops that we've ever had. So I just think there needs to be a cleanup in the city and better leadership. And it needs to start with Chief Lopez. And I just think he either needs to seriously improve or he needs to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Those were all our call-ins from the audience. We have Catherine Lozier from our public library.
Hello, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and members of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Through a partnership with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, the library is providing 2 types of COVID testing for the community. At the Baldwin Park Library, we have at-home antigen tests. It's a kit of 2, and it's available 1 per family member per day. Not all family members need to be present. You can come in and pick up kits for your whole family while supplies last. And then not at Baldwin Park, but at 2 of our neighboring libraries, Sunkiss Library in La Puente and Norwood Library in El Monte. They are working with the Department of Public Health to provide PCR COVID tests. These are clinical tests. You can stop in the library either pre-registering or walk in and pick up kits. They're expected to be used within 3 days, but you can drop them back off at the library once you've conducted the test and receive your results in 24 to 48 hours. And again, not all family members need to be present. You can just stop in and pick them up for your whole family. And then we have 2 in-person programs, both this week and next week. The first is Sharpie Art for children ages 7 to 11 and their parents. You You can learn how to make watercolor art using Sharpies and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and you can learn a little bit about how Sharpie markers were created. And then for teens, on Wednesday, July 27th, we have painting techniques, teaching how to paint the night sky using cherry blossom trees as a contrast. And you can register for those online now and stop in and see us at the library anytime. We are also available at lacountylibrary.org and by phone. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Next is Adena Tesler. She would like to speak on item number 25, minimum wage for healthcare.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Estrada. Happy to be here with you this evening. I'm here on behalf of the Hospital Association of Southern California. We represent over 180 member hospitals and 35 health systems, all with a common goal to improve the operating environment for our hospitals, our workers, and to strengthen the health of the communities they serve. I'm here tonight in response to the council's recent request to explore an ordinance similar to the healthcare minimum wage measure that failed to qualify for the ballot. Because the ballot initiative did not qualify, the council is under no time constraint to act. And as a result, you all are in the best position to thoroughly analyze any healthcare wage policy you may consider. As part of your process, we strongly urge the council to request a thorough economic analysis prior to taking any action, so that the city council is fully informed the potential economic impact on the healthcare workforce and facilities within Baldwin Park. The council also has the time to collaborate with all the stakeholders to fully understand any potential unintended impacts and consequences. According to our research, the proposed measure would have excluded 78% of the healthcare facilities in Baldwin Park. Those excluded facilities include community clinics, Planned Parenthood clinics, urgent care, skilled nursing facilities, home health care facilities, and more. These are all healthcare providers that you do have the jurisdiction to oversee. In addition, our recent research showed us that the proposed measure would have increased salary expenses for covered facilities in Baldwin Park alone by 17.4%, approximately $2.9 million annually. In fact, it's the highest impact of all the 10 cities that were targeted for this measure. On behalf of the healthcare providers in Baldwin Park, we thank you for your time and consideration, and we stand ready to work with the city on any issues impacting our members and the care they provide to the people of Baldwin Park. Thank you.
Next is Nairi Bagdasarian.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Baldwin Park City Council. My name is Nairi Bagdasarian, and I'm here on behalf of the San Gabriel Valley Economic Partnership to urge you not to take any further action on the unequal pay measure discussed previously. Like all of you, we have seen how the increasing costs of basic necessities such as food, gasoline, and housing are impacting our communities. We understand the desire to want to do something to help impacted individuals, especially those that have been on the front lines fighting the pandemic. However, flawed approaches like the one that failed to qualify for the November 2022 ballot could cause more harm than good. The failed measure was discriminatory, deeply flawed, and will hurt workers and patients. For the first time in the history of California, the majority of California hospitals are operating in red. The total losses amount to $20 billion in 2020 and 2021. Even after considering the $8 billion in federal COVID relief, hospitals still lost $12 billion. Hospitals are also facing an unprecedented workforce shortage due to the pandemic, with total workforce down nearly 20%. Measures like the one proposed will only exacerbate these problems. Adopting a city ordinance that mimics the measure would set arbitrary pay requirements for only some healthcare workers, like we've heard, at private hospitals and healthcare facilities, while completely excluding thousands of healthcare workers doing the same jobs at public hospitals, community clinics, and other providers operating within the city. The measure would, in fact, exclude workers at 78% of healthcare facilities in the city, creating a confusing, arbitrary, and inequitable system. Finally, the proposal also sets a dangerous precedent that could increase costs significantly in Baldwin Park. While the proposal appears to be aimed at healthcare workers, it also covers janitorial staff, security, cafeteria workers, and groundskeepers. Many of those positions are also employed by the city and other employers. Adopting a proposal will inevitably result in the excluded workers to come to the council and demand similar salary increases. The measure has the potential to increase the cost significantly in all areas of the city. Given that the measure has already failed when being presented to the voters, we urge that no further action be taken by the Baldwin Park City Council on this discriminatory, unequal pay measure. Thank you.
Next is Jules Guerrero, who will speak on minimum wage.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jules Guerrero. I work at Kaiser Permanente. I'm a service rep in the laboratory. I feel that I'm nervous. I feel that we should have the minimum wage 25 due to inflation, gas prices, childcare, those who are hurting. I just feel that it will help us out. Thank you for your time.
Next is Leslie Brito, will also speak on minimum wage.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and rest of members of the city. I'm here to urge you to pass the minimum ordinances, and the reason is simple. We are on the front, and I'm not affected. With my 25 years of service, I'm making pretty good money. I'm talking about those are the ones that are contract with no benefits, paying not the minimum wage, and when they use it after they've been exposed to COVID, after working 12 hours every day, unable to say no, they get rid of them. I'm talking about those members that are exposing every single day. Every day we have shortage of nurses, 6, 7 on each department. I can work 12 hours every day due to the COVID, and corporations don't see that. And I'm very upset about those that is asking us to look for 2 jobs. It's a shame for people who mention that. We are in the United States, and as a mother, I have a second job. I had to go and cook, I had to go and clean after being exposed.
Please face the mayor.
After I exposed myself. So it's a shame for those that are asking us to look for another job. I want to see that person doing one day. I want that person be next to me, working at the hospital, not doing nothing, just checking what I'm doing, and then we talk. People who come and urge you not to pass this law and that ordinance is because they lobbyists. I want to see how much money they get paid to come and tell you that it's going to be affected. They don't know what's going on. They are in the office making business. Kaiser Permanente get money from the state to support this pandemic. Kaiser Permanente is still making billions of dollars every 3 months. So they don't talk about that. They don't talk how much money they pay to these lobbyist people to come and disturb you and to give you the wrong numbers. That's a shame. So I urge you to pass this law, not for me, for those that are working with the minimum wage, with no benefits, and they're going to get rid of them at any time, any moment. Thank you very much.
Gabriel Montoya.
Good evening, Mayor Estrada, City Council. My name is Gabe Montoya, and I am an EMT for LA County for the past 17 years. And I'm also a rank and file elected executive committee member for SEIU HW. And I'm here today to support my brothers and sisters in Baldwin Park who work in healthcare. Let me start out and say that as an EMT who's worked throughout this pandemic that is still going on for us in the hospital, We have seen trauma. We have dealt with trauma in our own selves, our own families. I myself personally, along with a lot of my brothers and sisters who had to do this, didn't get to hug my mom for almost a year in fear that I would get her sick from the work I did at the hospital. This is the sacrifice that a lot of us in this healthcare industry did in order to take care of our communities. But at the same time, and I know you would understand this, Mayor Estrada, with this sacrifice, we have seen healthcare workers struggle to make it. I understand that you have a passion for people who are housing insecure. I love the work you've done with the small house community here in Baldwin Park, the work you are going to do with building a community for families who are also housing insecure in Baldwin Park, and I think that's great work. This also applies to this. We need workers in healthcare to have a living wage and be in a place where they don't have to be one paycheck away from being homeless. Now, if we want to talk about equity, let's talk about equity. Greg Adams, the CEO of Kaiser Permanente, my boss, wants to hide behind the California Hospital Association and talk about how we should not pass this. Greg Adams got paid $17 million in compensation in 2020. That breaks down to 52 weeks a year, 40 hours a week at $8,000 an hour. It is crazy that a man who makes $8,000 an hour has the nerve to come out and talk against his workers making a living wage of $25 an hour. Let's also talk about the Chief Executive Officer and President of the California Hospital Association, Ms. Coyle. Let's talk about her $1.4 million salary that the Los Angeles Times reported on in 2019. And it just blows my mind that two people who make salaries that are workers who are doing the work and caring for patients have the nerve to send professional lobbyists to come out and talk against this measure. I think we should also have a conversation about how we are doing the work as a union to make sure that community clinics have the funding to be able to pay their workers a living wage. And yet none of these groups who are going to come out here and speak to you today against this measure have joined us or done any of the work to make sure that the community clinic workers are being paid a living wage. So I urge you to pass this as an ordinance, because it is the moral thing to do. It is a thing to do to protect communities and to make sure people want to continue to work in healthcare and safely staff our hospitals here in Baldwin Park. Thank you.
Next is Abel. He wants to talk about city complaints. ¿Se puede acercar al micrófono, por favor? ¿Se puede acercar al micrófono, por favor? Gracias.
Bueno, me llamo Abel, mi nombre, vivo en Baldwin Park por 40 años y business owner por 40 años más o menos. Y ahora mi complaint es acerca de que me acaban de robar un gate, un hombre se lo llevó cargado en la calle. Le llamé a la policía, nunca llegó. Entonces lo tuve que correr yo a quitárselo para que lo llevara para atrás. Le pregunté, ¿para qué lo quieres? Dice, lo ocupo yo, para mi casa. ¿Al casa? ¿No tienes casa? Le digo. Lo voy a quitar hasta allá como 500 pies. Y la otra es que pues hay mucho graffiti todavía en la área para aquel lado del freeway, en la puente, el lado de la Elton y atrás de la marqueta donde están las tiny houses de los hombres, muchos carros parqueados ahí que no pagan, más tirando basura. Y pues se necesita remover eso, pues se ve muy fea la calle, cada vez que entra la gente a Baldwin Park se ve feo. Y también en la Ramona hay muchos hombres también. Pues también deben removerla y tienen mucho tiempo ahí, como 3 meses lo remueven. Las Palmas, limpiaron las Palmas apenas hace 3, 4 días, le dejaron toda la basura arriba. No las limpian bien. Y creo que es todo, ojalá y pongan más ley en estos problemas que estoy platicando.
Good evening. My name is Abel. I've been living in Baldwin Park for 40 years.
I'm a business owner for 40 years almost, also, and I'm here to complain about a gate that they stole from me. Someone just robbed me. I mean, they just took away, and I called the police, and they never arrived. And I followed the individual about 500 feet, and I caught up with him, and I asked him, "What do you need this for?" He says, "I need this for my home." I said, "What home? You don't have a home. You're homeless." And also, I want to explain about the graffiti by the area of La Puente, by the freeway, behind Alton, behind the market. There's a lot of homeless people there, and their cars parked all day long, and there's a lot of trash. It looks very ugly. Around the area of Ramona, also, there's quite a few homeless people. And in regards to the palm trees, apparently they've been trimming them, and they have left the branches spread on the ground. There's no cleaning. I hope to find a solution to all these complaints. Thank you.
Next is Brian Tapia. He'll be speaking on 25 minimum wage for healthcare workers.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brian Tapia. I work at Baldwin Park Kaiser. I think you guys should really consider passing the $25 minimum wage, especially after all that we've gone through the pandemic. Especially me, I've been in the front line working in the critical care unit, so I've seen a lot of stuff. To one day talking to one person, the next they're gone. It's really traumatic. And I would really appreciate it if you guys could pass that for me and help me out, my family, and my coworkers. Thank you.
Next is Norris Cotto Lopez. We'll be talking about 25 minimum wage for healthcare workers.
Good evening. I'm not a professional talker. I don't have a paper in front of me to guide me on what to say. I'm just here to represent the healthcare workers at Kaiser, Baldwin Park. I've worked at Baldwin Park, and I've not been around the city a lot, but now I got to know a lot of people who I'm here speaking up for that work and live in Baldwin Park, and they are hard workers, and have been put up through a lot during the pandemics, and they are not being represented or being paid for what they deserve for what they do for this community, for this city. I ask for you to look beyond that, those professional people who are here, who are getting paid to be here, and tell you not to pass that minimum wage for $25 an hour. It's impossible for me to believe that there's those people that, for the health care of human beings that need our relatives, our families, that need us. Well, our healthcare workers, environmental services, we're there for you. We're there working, and they're hard workers. I ask you to please support that and pass that, just like the other cities of LA and Downey has done. Thank you.
Next is Gustavo Cuadra. He will be speaking on item number 9.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, city staff. I'm here as a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. Given the opportunity, when presented with the opportunity to be on the committee, to explore the possibility of the proposed tax increase that is proposed to be on the November ballot. As a lifelong resident of Baldwin Park, I jumped on that opportunity to have a voice in the process and to give my opinions and hear feedback from the community. I was able to attend vast majority of the stakeholder, the meetings that were held throughout the community, and there were a number of issues raised Most of it seemed to be a forum for the residents to kind of air their grievances, but there were some really good ideas that came from those meetings. A lot of which was like, if this measure were to pass, what would the money be used for? People would like to see it used for public safety, to increase the police force, to clean up the streets, to clean up graffiti, to make parks, public space, things of that nature, all of which is very important. But some other concerns were public trust. And given the checkered past of this council and previous administrations, it's a legitimate concern, and a concern which I share. However, I do believe, given the opportunity to educate myself more on the ballot measure, I do believe it's an opportunity not only for this new administration to kind of prove to the people of Baldwin Park that they've changed their ways and we're making this community better, but for the city as a whole to invest in ourselves, invest in our community, and make Baldwin Park better for all of us. So with that, I would like to lend my support to approving the proposed sales tax increase and leave it to the people of Baldwin Park to let their voice be heard in November. Thank you.
Mayor, we received one more request via email from Denise Knitter. She's from the Los Angeles County Business Federation.
Okay, so good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Denise. I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Business Federation, also known as BizFed. We advocate on behalf of our members, over 220 business organizations that represent over 450,000 employers in LA County, and that's over 5 million employees in the county, including in Baldwin Park. I'm here to address the potential ordinance in regards to increasing the minimum wage for some healthcare workers at some facilities. As previous commentators have noted, the measure failed to secure the necessary signatures from Baldwin Park voters, and it's failed to qualify for the ballot. So we believe no immediate action needs to be taken, and so the council and mayor have an opportunity to really assess the validity and impact and economic impact on Baldwin Park. As you're considering it, we strongly encourage you to request an economic analysis prior to taking any action. As the previous commentators noted, the proposed measure is flawed. It only applies to some healthcare workers. And in fact, a new analysis from Berkeley Research Group showed that the proposed analysis could increase salary expenses for some facilities by over 17%. It would be almost $3 million annually, and that's the highest amount of all the cities that were examined in the research study group. The COVID-19 pandemic has put a strain on our providers, and it's not over. According to Kaufman Hall, California hospitals lost over $6 billion last year, and that's in addition to the horrible losses from the beginning of the pandemic. As the pandemic continues and our healthcare facilities are recovering, the facilities most at risk are the ones that serve our most disenfranchised community providers, federally qualified healthcare clinics, Planned Parenthoods. We encourage the council to please take a thoughtful, data-driven approach, include an economic analysis as part of your consideration prior to moving forward with this. Thank you.
Mayor, those were all the written and call-in requests we received.
Great. Thank you for that, City Clerk. If anybody else is looking to speak that did not fill out a postcard, now is your time.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'd like to take this time to give my, and I'm lost for words, of course. I'm in favor of the tax increase. I have been part of a lot of the meetings and educating myself and being a part of educating the community. And I really feel that definitely give the voters the opportunity to make that decision. But if you could please put it on the ballot, that would give all of us that opportunity. And I'm looking at the opportunity of approximately $6 million a year and what that could do in our city. Going towards the police department, I completely disagree with some of the public speaking and think our police department does an amazing job, and I'm very thankful for what the chief and the officers do. So I'd like to publicly make that known as well. But again, back to the tax, there's so much we can do, so much community projects that we could do. And I love the idea that it all stays here in Baldwin Park and it cannot go outside of the city. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our community and public safety, our seniors, and yeah, so I just want to say I'm definitely in favor, and good night.
Good evening, Mayor Estrada, Mayor Pro Tem Damian, Council Members Avila, Garcia, and Hernandez. My name is Froylan Mendoza, Superintendent of Baldwin Park Unified School District, but also one of the board of directors with the Baldwin Park Business Association, and also a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee for the proposed general 3/4 cent sales tax. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the proposed tax and in support of. There are a lot of pros in regards to supporting the 3/4 sales tax. Not only are there a lot of pros toward it, it's my understanding that if we don't do it here in Baldwin Park, LA County might do it on their own. And if LA County does it on their own, we may not have that opportunity to have any say in regards to how we can spend the sales tax. With that, a lot of pros, but the things that have really captured my attention in regards to all of this is we made an incredible trip to Pico Rivera. And it gave us a vision of what could be here in Baldwin Park. There are a lot of good things happening in Pico Rivera that we could also learn from. Lots of parks, lots of recreation areas, a lot of programs for our youth and families, which I am incredibly supportive of, knowing that we serve all the same kids here in Baldwin Park, Baldwin Park City, and the Baldwin Park Unified School District. So I'm incredibly excited about that. But there is one thing that I think I need to express on behalf of the school district, and I am incredibly concerned. When you take a look at and when you read the news in regards to what's happening across the nation, as far as the violence that's happening, whether it's happening in the cities or in our schools, we need help here in Baldwin Park. And as we kind of take a look at the things that we are trying to do and trying to shore up, even in Baldwin Park Unified School District, we currently don't have all the resources that we need to make it happen. We've had incredible conversations with our police chief, our city manager in regards to what we can do together and ensure the safety of our students. But with that, I'm gathering that we don't have enough resources to make that happen. And with the increase in sales tax, I believe that we will have a better way to coordinate our efforts, get the training needed, and also the personnel that's needed to make this happen. So with that, I do want to thank the City Council for their time, and thank you for listening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. Good afternoon. My name is Jocelyn Lopez on behalf of the Hospital Association of Southern California. I just want to clarify what was said about SB 1014, the Senate bill mentioned earlier. UHW is saying that SB 1014 would improve pay for workers at community clinics not covered by the local healthcare minimum wage measures. However, this bill provides funding only to federally qualified centers that are unionized and those that raise their minimum wage to $25 an hour. And the current bill has no identified funding source. SB 1014 is not a solution and further reinforces the disparity and inequity of a patchwork approach to policymaking. This further underscores the flawed and chaotic approach by the unequal pay measures proponents. On the one hand, proponents are pursuing statewide legislation for workers at only some clinics. At the same time, they have targeted 10 cities in Southern California to address pay for only some healthcare workers. The measure proposed will not improve quality of care in Southern California. The measures would jeopardize access to care and deepen inequities in our healthcare system for Southern California's most disadvantaged and already underserved communities. Thank you and have a great day.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and the rest of the gentlemen here. I'm not a professional speaker, but my name is George Hernandez, and I attended to most of the meetings that we had regarding the Measure BP. In all the projects that we have in mind, I informed to other people what the plans are for the increase of tax. And most of them, they agree with me that it was a nice thing to do, because I take, sometimes I ride my bike to Barnes or right here on park right here in Morgan. And it's sad to see our kids, little kids, playing soccer in a very tiny field. And they asked me if there was a possibility, like, to build a sports complex. And I say, yes, there's a possibility, but we have to pass this measure BP, because that will benefit the city, the community, and our parks, and our future project. And like this gentleman, Mr. Ferland said, if we don't do it, LA County is going to take it. So I am for Measure BP, because I know the future of Baldwin Park depends on that, and that's what I want to see, a better community for our city officials, our police department, our parks, and our recreation area, and to have a better life for our little kids, and I hope that sport complex comes through. I support Measure BP. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Eric Pinion. I'm a member of the Planning Commission with the city, and I'm also a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee for Measure BP. I don't think it's a good idea to I don't think it's a good time to pass Measure BP. You have a recession that's right around the corner. Gas prices are high. Grocery items are more expensive than ever, and inflation is up there as well. But even though there's a recession, we still have school shootings. Even though gas prices are high, there's still going to be potholes in the streets. Grocery items are still expensive, but we still need to feel safe walking to the grocery stores. There's high inflation, but our children and grandchildren still need to grow up in a city that supports them through after-school programs and safer parks. My point is that whether the times are good or bad, services still need to function. With Measure BP, not only will city services function, they'll be enhanced and improved. Why don't we wait until 2024 to pass the measure? That's a common and valid question members of the community asked us during the community engagement meetings. And the answer is simple, as other folks have said, that the county might come in and increase our sales tax to the maximum by vote. If that happens, Baldwin Park will get pennies to the dollar. With Measure BP, Baldwin Park dollars stay in Baldwin Park. And personally, I don't want to wait until 2024 for park rangers to begin patrolling our parks to keep our children safe. I don't want to wait until 2024 to have a sports complex. And I don't want to wait until 2024 or later to have a stronger city. With this in mind, I urge the City Council to unanimously approve Measure BP so it can be on the ballot this November and the voters can decide. Thank you for your time.
Everybody's been talking about the BP initiative and everything. Within my community, which I already told you this earlier today, they don't want no increase on taxes. The reason is because they don't trust you guys. Especially with that special meeting that you guys had last week, it really put you guys down. You know, one of the things you have to understand that during 20 years of Lozano, he never raised the taxes. We never had homeless people within the city. We didn't have no street vendors, which we did. It took the code enforcement, the supervisor, 3 weeks to get rid of the majority of them. So the community doesn't trust you, truthfully. I'll be truthful with you guys. I never have pulled any punches. And I'm telling Danny Damon, I'm bowing out. I cannot support this. Okay? Because my community, I have met with them. They said, no, we don't want no increase on our taxes. If the county or the state wants to take it, let them take it. We do not trust the city council. Basically, the community don't trust you. How many attendees that we had for all those 10 meetings? The only time we had any people around was when we had the meeting right here at the senior center. We had a meeting for the neighborhood watch. There was 25 people in there. And we only had around maybe 2 weeks. And not all of them went. One of the reasons not all of them went is because I was busy with the committee that you guys had together. Truthfully, I do not trust you guys. That's why I'm sorry, Enrique, but I'm going to have to bow out from that. I cannot support that. There's too many bad things going on in the city that you guys have to address. Like that homeless shelter that you're doing next to the city yard. You guys are using our public workers to do project right there. Have you been around the city? All the trash, everything. I have to be calling public works. Hey, there's trash here. There's trash there. You guys have to wake up your mind. The project for the homeless right there, you guys should just drop it. Do it on the weekends if you want to. Give the city workers overtime. Thank you.
Pastor Jackson at Christ Extended Hand, also a member of the stockholders. There is controversy on the tax, but I look at it like this. I'm like a daysman between government and the people, and and I look what's the future has to hold. With that tax increase, it can do a lot of great development. And I heard about not trusting the city council. I like this, the committee, to keep check on what the city council is doing, how they can spend the money, and what have you, and not, from my understanding, nothing going into their pockets. And also, like the gentleman stated about the police department, a lot of times when you walk in a man's shoes, then you can actually speak, not realizing the trials and tribulations that the police department is going through with a lot of people being out, the COVID that had hit the community, that our community needs to come together and unite ourselves together in one accord. Am I for it? Yes. What qualifies me to say that? I've been here for 34 years as a pastor here in Baldwin Park. Also on the Business Association Board, and also a chaplain of the Baldwin Park Police Department. And I'm looking for the future of Baldwin Park in a much better place. Thank you.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. First of all, I think we ought to call this the dump site for homeless. You know, even though we had a corrupt council for years, the one thing we didn't have was vendor problems, and we didn't have homeless. And all down Ramona, my street, I keep calling and calling, and nobody does anything. Then you spend $3 million to buy a piece of property. You have city workers over there working on that you're getting promised money of only so much money for a year. You're going to have to dig around and find more money next year for them. Now then, let's get into the city tax. Your consultant that you hired was a fake. He put up on a slide that the city only gets 0% tax dollars. But then on your staff report here, you put 1%. That's not even correct. It's 2.5 because you're under another restriction where you pay for the county fire department. But the city tax is going to affect everybody in this city, all the businesses that buy big equipment, all the residents that go to the grocery store. If they go and buy product at Target, they go in the gas station, they go everywhere else, they're going to have an increase. These are talking about elderly people, too, that are on fixed income. You guys couldn't even manage, and it's not mostly you, it's the past council, the weed money. Because we had a crooked finance director that weeded all the money that was supposed to go to the police department and all the other stuff to pay salaries. We can't count on this, that you guys are going to have that vote come election and that you're going to be there and not another dirty, corrupt council comes back in. We can't trust that this is going to happen because we don't know that. And nobody can guarantee that. And they said that over at the senior center. When I talked over there, everybody realized we can't trust you because we know what happened in the past. And we know how the city spends the money when it goes into general fund. And we know what this finance director does with it. You guys can't be trusted with it. And yes, all these great visions. But the thing is, there's nothing solid. You're afraid to put it to a majority vote so that you could do that and fix the thing. That's what you're afraid of. You haven't told anybody that because all you need is 50% plus one. If you do it the other way, you need more votes, but you don't do it that way because you know you'll lose. And it's just like, let's go on to Kaiser. Leslie back here pointing at my hat. I'm Greg Tuttle, Leslie, if you want to know. And the thing is, yes, you guys don't deserve, and I want to know what brain surgeon came up with the cost of living is $25 to live on. Who did that? These flyers going out? This is not going to be good election time, Mayor, and the rest of you running for election. It's not going to be good. And I've already contacted them. I will be support, and I will hand out flyers along with voting for no on the tax. So this is stupid, what you guys are doing on a recession time when nobody's got any money, and you want to tax more. It's stupid.
Your time is up, sir.
Hello, Mayor, council members. My name is Greg Orozco. I've been a resident 50 plus years, business owner. I run the Tough Kids Wrestling program here in Baldwin Park for the last 21 years. And I was privileged to be part of the stakeholders committee. It was a great few months there of dialogue going back and forth. Got to know the process of how this all came about for Measure BP. A lot of good things, bad things. A lot of people talked about past councils and corruption, etc. And I had to look at it from both sides of the fence here. And Measure BP is one of those things that, as I educated myself, it's not if, it's when our tax will go to 10.25. Excuse me, 10.25. It's flip the coin, LA County gets it. You flip the coin, Baldwin Park gets it. I'd rather be on the side of the coin that Baldwin Park gets it. There's a lot of things that Baldwin Park is doing right as of late with the new council. Thank you guys. On that note, we're getting better and doing things. We're building things. We're plazas and structures for homeless, etc. These things are not going to go away. We have to deal with them. So Measure BP, that funding, I'm hoping as part of the stakeholders committee, I do get a say down the road on where this money gets spent. We had great dialogue. We spoke about having a separate fund, not having it in the general fund. Rose assured me that we could put it in a separate fund. So when a check is written out of that fund, not only the council members know where that money is coming from, the general public does too. On the other side, Lulu instructed small text basically, or what the measure was about. We did not have a lot of people from the city attend the meetings, but we did do the due diligence of having meetings all over the city, weekly, bi-weekly. The stakeholders met, or bi-monthly, excuse me. We did very well on presenting it to the public. I thought a lot of us went out there. Mr. Rios knows everybody on that side of town. I know a lot of people all over the town. And we got pros and cons. We presented it to you guys. And I think Measure BP is needed for a lot of things, not only the police, youth programs, etc. Our youth is dwindling here in Baldwin Park, and we need to address that as we go with Measure BP. Thank you for your time.
Great. If nobody else is looking to speak, I will now close public communication. I do want to address Mr. Rios. I think Mr. Rios, 2012, there actually was a soda tax initiative. So there has been tax initiatives before in the past here in the city of Baldwin Park. Didn't go through, it failed. And second off, this tax initiative has been actually talked about since 2019, and it was proposed for the 2020 ballot. It just didn't go through. Council didn't put it on there because of COVID. So just a little bit of misinformation regarding the taxes and homelessness. Homelessness has been around in a very, very long time here in the city of Baldwin Park. Actually, looking at the articles here myself, between 2017 2018, homelessness doubled from 140 to 280, and between 2018 2019, homelessness doubled again to plus 500. Last year, 2020, we don't know what the number was because of the pandemic. This year, we did it for the first time after the pandemic, so we'll see the count. But this council is actually the first to address homelessness here in the city of Baldwin Park, with not just the tiny homes for people over 18, which is currently helping senior citizens. It's also the first to set up a tiny home village for families who are going through hardship after the pandemic and economically. So just want to make sure that we are all aware of that. And that information is actually public and it's ready and available for you. You can seek it through Public Information Acts. You can go on the LASA website, and you can also look it up on the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. As for SEIU and the hospital associations, it's a long discussion, and we are making sure that we hear everybody out. You've already met, some of my colleagues have met with the hospital association, and I know that we will be meeting with the SEIU as well. But other than that, we are doing our due diligence, making sure that we read between the fine print, make sure that we are getting the right information from both sides. So that is a discussion that will be to be continued.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Avila.
Thank you. First, I want to discuss the tax measure that is being proposed and the committee that we have in place. And the best thing about this is that it's going on the ballot, so it's not the council that will be deciding whether this measure will be passed or not. It will be our community members that will decide if the measure will pass in the city of Baldwin Park. So we're not making that decision. We're proposing it and giving you all the pros that this measure can bring to the city of Baldwin Park and all the services that can bring to the city of Baldwin Park. Again, you will be the one voting on this, not the city council. We just want to make it clear that if we don't take the time to put it on the ballot, the county will. And as a few of you said, I'd rather have it stay in Baldwin Park than go to the county of LA where we will not benefit from it. In addition to that, the committee will have control on how that money will be spent. It will be put in a separate fund. It will be discussed with the committee when they had already presented ideas on what we're spending that money on, and they will approve that money to be spent in those areas, whether it's a field, whether it's more programs for our students, whether it's for the police department. The committee will be the ones deciding that, not city council. So I just wanted to make that clear as well. When it comes to the homeless, Baldwin Park is not unique to homeless, unfortunately. Having worked for the Baldwin Park School District for 27 years, I have worked with homeless families, families that you would not have any idea that are homeless, families that have reached out asking if there are vouchers within our city because they have nowhere to sleep, they have a car, and these people have children. And I'm talking right now about the facility we're building for families. Who has the heart to say we should not build for families, for children? It breaks my heart to hear that. To try to shut the doors and not give these children an opportunity to have a safe place to sleep, a warm place to sleep, a hot meal, a hot shower, somewhere where they can do their homework. Again, I have worked with these families closely, and it is heartbreaking. God forbid that any one of your family members or any one of you ever go through that, because we don't know what will happen in our lifetime that may take us there. We don't know that. So I ask you to open your heart. It's not just the homeless, and I understand the homeless you're talking about on the streets. They're not all the same. Yes, they're homeless that are drug addicts, and yes, there are homeless that are alcoholics. They still deserve respect. They still deserve help. If they want the help, we're here to help them. But when you talk about children and trying to deny them a place to live, it's really heartbreaking. So I really hope you stop and think about what we're trying to do. The homeless are here regardless. And it's not just Baldwin Park, like I said, it's all over the country. Go up to Oregon. I don't know if any of you have been to Oregon. The homeless population here in California is nothing compared to Oregon. And are we getting homeless from other states? Yes, we are. But they're not any less than you or any less than me. They are people that deserve respect. And I am willing to help them, and that is my goal, to help this homeless. If we have the funds, if we have to look for grants to help them, I'm not going to shut the doors because I'm not better than they are. So I really hope you touch your heart and you stop and think about the services that we're providing. It's good for them, especially our families, our children. And I am looking forward to opening that homeless shelter for our families. And we're going to invite the whole community to come out and celebrate that we are here for our children. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. And I rarely speak after public comments. I respect the fact that our community comes up to speak with their 3 minutes. It's the First Amendment right, and I respect that. However, I will address some of the sales tax comments when that item comes to the council. But I did want to address some of the items that we've heard during special meeting and now with allegations of corruption, transparency, having meetings in secrecy. I want to make it a point that unfortunately we can agree to disagree, and I respect that. However, when you come and allege that we are trying to hold meetings that are closed session items because they're not allowed to be an open session discussion, and you are pointing fingers at corruption because unfortunately things didn't go a certain way that you wanted, it's absolutely wrong. It's false. There was nothing secret about the special meeting that was called. It was like any other special meeting that we've called in the past. It was something that we weren't going to be able to address at this council meeting because, as you're aware, we didn't even get to finish discussing closed session items. So it was an item that we brought in and we agreed at the last council meeting to bring in as a special meeting for last week. It was publicized the way it should have been published. So there was nothing secret about that. There was no corruptions as far as qualifications go. Well, that's the reason why there's 5 council members and we deliberate and either agree to disagree who we appoint as a new director. But I just want to make it clear for the record that there was nothing in secret. Everything was done the way it should have been done. And if anything, I believe that all of my colleagues on the city council have prided themselves into making sure that every decision that we do and everything that we work on is as transparent as possible and try to have as much community engagement as we can. And then I'll address the sales tax comments when that item comes up. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thanks. And I do want to just double down on your comments, Mayor Pro Tem. City Council cannot hold secretive meetings. Closed session items are sensitive topics that continue with litigation, deal making, real estate. If we were to talk about something in closed session that wasn't listed in the agenda, we would be breaking the law. But that's not what we're doing. Special meetings are allowed to be held at the call of the mayor on his own, 24 hours in advance, or by 3 council members with the majority voting yes to have that city council meeting. So there is nothing being talked about in secrecy. You can see what's on the agenda, you can see what we're talking about, but you cannot hear what we're talking about because these are going to negotiations, whether it's for hiring somebody, and then it goes into negotiating pay, whether we're talking about real estate and negotiating prices, or whether we're talking about civic or civil liabilities like lawsuits. And we're trying to figure out if what we're talking about, what we're going to do. If we put that out there in the open, we wouldn't be able to negotiate, right? Because people wouldn't know what we're talking about. But of course, when something actually gets voted on or taken action, we come out and we report. So many of you heard me today when I opened the regular meeting. I asked city attorney if there's anything to report out. If there's nothing to report out, it means we didn't take any actual action. We just discussed. When action gets taken, we will report out as we should. We had that special meeting. We reported that we hired Ron that we looked to negotiate with Ron to hire him as our director. And that's just the way it goes. That's part of the Brown Act. There's nothing else to it. So if there's no other comment, I do want to go to consent calendar. Is there any items council is looking to pull?
I'd like to pull item number 4, please.
Okay, so we'll just do something a little different. Before we go to consent calendar, we'll just pull them out of order. So we'll go to item number 9. And that's the approval of resolution number 2022-038, ordering the submission to the qualified electors of the city of Baldwin Park of a certain measure relating to an increase in sales tax of a 3/4 cent transaction and use sales tax to benefit Baldwin Park residents at the general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, as called by resolution number 2022-025.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just introduce the discussion. We heard a lot from during the public comment period, and then there will be a presentation. But we, as your city staff, who work every day to carry out and implement the policies and direction of your city council on behalf of the city residents, and stakeholders can see firsthand that the idea of a sales tax is indeed an opportunity in time, if not a one-time opportunity, to shape the present and the future of our city. Members of the Stakeholders Advisory Committee, as you heard, have come to see it the same way. We recommend that this very question be presented to the voters by you approving the resolution before you. To complement that, we have a brief PowerPoint presentation, which is the exact same presentation that we brought to the public and the residents during our public engagement period. And I'd like to call Kyan to please lead us in the presentation.
Good evening, council members, present and online. My name is Kyan Clanny. I've been working with the Stakeholder Advisory Group and city staff for some time. We developed this presentation. I'd like to go through it right now, step by step, and then take any questions that you may have at that time. Will I be advancing this or? Okay, great. So, as Mr. Zaldivar said at the outset, this is the exact unchanged presentation that we've been giving probably since the middle of June. The only change is the first slide, which typically had the agenda at the top and the speakers that would be speaking at the meeting. So certainly this was a presentation that was given when other folks had seen it at the senior center. So asking yourselves, what is Measure BP now that we've had some discussion about it? Measure BP is a 3/4 cent sales tax, which would generate an estimated $6 million for the city of Baldwin Park. The revenue cannot be taken from the city, and it cannot be used by the state or by the county or by any other agency. Initially, there were some ideas about what Measure BP might be used for, but we understand that through the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and through input through other folks, those priorities may change, but initially keeping parks clean, ensuring 911 response times, ensuring street maintenance, and providing senior youth programming. These were all really key issues that were frequently discussed. One thing that I do want to mention is Measure BP is a general tax measure, which requires a simple majority in the November 22 election, should the council decide to put it on the ballot. Next slide, please. So why were we, this is, again, this slide was used to explain to the community why we were having the meetings. So on April 6th of this year, this Baldwin Park City Council unanimously approved giving direction to staff to conduct these meetings. So throughout the month of June, for every single week, there was a minimum of 2 meetings that occurred at city schools, and then we had, I think, 2 meetings here. We had an online meeting, and we had a meeting at the senior center, and we took a field trip to Pico Rivera. So the goal of these meetings was to gather folks, to have this conversation. Many of those folks are here today. Next slide, please. So this is the Stakeholder Advisory Committee list that was created at the outset. Some of these folks are here today. And the benefit of having not just residents of Baldwin Park is that you have folks that are interested in Baldwin Park, who have a vested interest in the city, maybe business owners and other folks. So we had a very good dialogue throughout the month of June about the potential impacts of Measure BP. Next slide, please. The goal of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee was to create a dialogue with the residents and the other stakeholders of the city in the hopes that in the future, if the measure should pass, a similar group of folks would get together and help to direct the city on how to allocate that funding. This is built into Measure BP in your staff report. It's actually written into the question that would go into the county for the August 12th deadline. So there's an oversight component and an audit component. Both are in your staff report. And these are items that were very critical to not just the Stakeholder Advisory Committee, but to residents and other folks as we went through our conversations. Next slide, please. So Now we can get to sort of the data points that, for whatever reason, some people find controversial. But we're going to explain it absolutely crystal clear. And again, this has never changed. So if you look at the tax rate on the right-hand side on the chart, those are the California sales tax of 7.25, the LA County tax rate of 2.25. The city of Baldwin Park does not currently have a line item sales tax that exists anywhere. If you look at your ordinance, your municipal code, you will find a Bradley Burns 1%. That's on the next slide. And the reason that it's represented as 0 on this slide, and then I'll demonstrate on the next slide where it's located, it's in the sales tax from the state. So the reason all this math is important is because the maximum sales tax rate that's allowed in the county is 10.25%. So some folks tonight in their public comment, some folks mentioned use it or lose it, or the maximum. So this is what they're talking about. Should the county increase the sales, a county or any other agency that's authorized to increase the sales tax, for that matter, increase it to 10.25, the city of Baldwin Park would not be able to do so. So here on this slide deck, on the left-hand side, you have the state sales tax breakdown. And at the very bottom, it says, as it has said at every meeting, city return from state sales tax. That is not a specific line item for the city of Baldwin Park. That is us alone. That is built within the state sales tax. The LA County sales tax, as you can see, those are the increments in which those have increased, many recently. So that maximum is 2.25. Together, you get the 9.5. Next slide. So the purpose really is to generate local revenues, to protect it so that it can be used in Baldwin Park to fund all these different programs that folks are interested in funding. So that's been the basic message. Local revenues that's protected that we can use locally. Next slide. So this is a sample estimate, right? Should the council approve to put this on the ballot, and should the voters of Baldwin Park agree and support this measure, if it were enacted next year, with an effective date of the beginning of the fiscal year, you'd generate about $3 million. And then next year it would be 6. So that's just a sample illustration of what that looks like compared to your current sales tax revenue. Next slide. So generally speaking, the impact will be on everybody, but this slide's purpose is to sort of illustrate the real cost basis for this, because it's a 3/4 of 1 cent per dollar. So if you go to one of the coffee shops in town and you buy a $5 cup of coffee, you're going to pay about 4 cents. Right? On average, the average person would pay about $7 per month for the average person. You may ask yourself, well, is this going to be on every single item that I buy, every sales tax item? No. Next slide. The state exempts certain purchases from sales tax. The most common exemptions are fresh fruit items. The example that we use continuously in our meetings are, if you go to the Vallarta market and you buy a chicken that is unprepared, uncooked chicken, there would be no sales tax. But if you bought that same chicken after it had been cooked, there would be a sales tax. Also excluded are licensed professional services like a chiropractor, optometrist, physician, even an attorney, prescription medications and medical equipment, and then utilities that are connected directly to facility. These are not the only exclusions. The state CDTFA has a booklet with 50 pages of text that's readily available that we actually ended up taking to our meetings. Next slide, please. And you, honorable council member, know better than most that the purpose of all this is really to plan for the future. So whether it's youth programming, whether it's putting potential officers to the academy, building a sports complex, or addressing streets that need to be paved, the purpose is to plan for the future of the city. Next slide. Thank you. At the end of April and the beginning of May, a private firm, not me, were hired to conduct research to talk to registered voters in the city of Baldwin Park. They reached out to 422 voters, conducted approximately a 16-minute survey, and the results came back. Next slide. Based on initial impression, about 70% of the voters of Baldwin Park would support that ballot question that's provided there on the left, which has changed slightly. The proposed ballot language that's in your staff report is slightly stronger. It actually addresses school safety. It increased that 5 million to 6 million. And then it includes a phrase on the bottom that says, and no money to LA. No offense to LA, but all that money would be in Baldwin Park. And so we wanted to make sure that that message was salient. Next slide, please. The issues that were important when asked amongst voters in Baldwin Park were some of the similar issues that we've heard from the Stakeholders Advisory Committee: cleaning up the city, addressing potholes, reducing crime, school safety, keeping parks clean, fast 911 response times, and providing after-school programs for youth. These issues came up over and over and over again, along with ensuring that these funds would be used locally, which was not an issue that was really asked on the poll. Next slide. So what's our timeline? So in the month of June, we conducted the meetings. Today's July 20th. So today the council decides whether or not to send this to the voters. August 12th is your deadline to send it to the county for publication and all the formalities to be on the November ballot. Although it's the November 8th election, election day actually takes place over 30 days. So election voting would begin in early October and end on November 8th. I believe that's the end. I'll take questions. I think anybody has questions or comments?
Sorry, when is the last day to vote on this, did you say?
I believe per county rules and regulations, the last day for the city to send it to the county is August 12th, but I think in the interest of ensuring that this wasn't done at the last minute, under the advice of staff, we scheduled the meeting for today.
All right. Anybody have any questions, comments?
And I would like to, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting you, but I really would like to thank all the council member, Damien, and Mr. Zaldivar, and the city staff that really went out of their way to attend these meetings after hours in many cases, and the Stakeholder Advisory Committee that showed up on Saturdays, even in buildings with hot weather. So I do want to recognize the staff did an amazing job on behalf of the residents of Baldwin Park.
Thank you for the presentation. That was very good.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we talk about the committee, is that codified into the ballot initiative, or is there a way to remove that committee?
The committee, I believe, is in the resolution language that would go to the clerk, to the county, but I believe that would ultimately be a matter for the council and for the city to decide.
It's in the ballot language itself, and so what will follow after, upon approval by the voters, is like happens in any other law. There's regulations that follow that, right? After the enactment of the law, the staff will develop procedures and a way of implementing the advisory committee and its oversight, and that will be brought back to City Council as an actual regulation.
Great. Okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Enrique or staff, just out of curiosity, does this require supermajority for this to be placed on the ballot tonight, or whenever the vote is casted by the council?
Simple majority, Councilmember Hernandez.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question that I had here was, and I'm not sure if there's clarification. Again, as many have noted, there are tremendous benefits moving forward, but currently, as you can imagine, many residents and folks in our city are dealing with very high inflation rates, and more importantly, their salaries are not keeping up with that. Is there a process in which the collection of the increased tax fee could be kicked off instead of July 2023, say January 1st, 2024?
A deferred date of effectiveness, in effect, is what you're saying. The way that right now the ballot language would have it, or the ordinance, I should say, in the resolution, is that it will take effect around April or May. It's 160 days from when the voters' action gets certified. So there's a trigger mechanism already in the language, but it's around April or May of 2023. The answer to your question, yes. Any subsequent deferred date can go on the language instead of what we have in there right now.
Okay. That might be something of consideration.
It needs to be done. Excuse me. One. Correct. By council action.
Got it.
Yeah.
And that can be done at a later time if needed?
No, it has to be in the language of the resolution itself.
Understood. Okay. The reason I spoke about the supermajority is in the ordinance, right, that we have that's been attached for our review. I wish there'd be page numbers here, but there's not. It's under the ordinance for other people. Let's see. It would be actual after. Let's see. Sorry. There's a resolution, right, and then the following page is section 6. The following page after that is, pass approved, the records of how the council votes on July 20th. The following document is ordinance number, and it's, parentheses. And in yellow, that language, section 2, speaks to this ordinance was duly approved and placement on the ballot by a minimum of 2/3 supermajority by all members of the city council on, and it's highlighted in yellow, comma 2022. Can staff just speak to that?
I believe, Councilmember Hernandez, that that was done in anticipation of something getting passed. And when it talks about a supermajority, that is in error.
Okay, so we'll need to make a note and change, verbal change if we move forward with this tonight, please.
Yes, and I think we're just passing the resolution tonight, but I noted your correction, and it will be made.
Okay. Again, I'd love to, entertain a conversation with my colleagues to see. Again, I still believe this is a great opportunity for our city to advance moving forward for various projects and enhancements to our city and to our residents ultimately. And more importantly, what I'd like to have a discussion is around the actual effective date instead of the 180 days. This here says 110 days, but the 180 days that Enrique has mentioned, that it perhaps we give it a little bit of leeway instead of August. We do it sometime maybe later in the year or starting January 1st of 2024. I do understand that we will not collect $3 million, but it's just one of those items of conversation to help alleviate the pressures that our residents are currently already facing with various costs on a day-to-day basis. And this inflation, I wish it would, but I don't think it's going to be resolved within the next 12 months. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank city staff, Kyan, and all of our stakeholder advisory committee members, some of who attended every single one of our community meetings. We did have 12, as mentioned prior by Mr. Rios. It's unfortunate that the community didn't show up the way we expected or wanted them to show up to these community meetings so that we can have an open dialogue and engage as to educating, what Measure BP is all about. There was a lot of concerns. What we did was we held 12 meetings, even though we didn't have the people that we wanted there or the amount of people that we wanted there. We were, advertising this. We were inviting people to show up for the same reason, because we didn't want people to say that we didn't bring this out to them to educate them as to what Measure BP was for. So we did do all of our work and our footwork to make sure that we got this information out there. Some of our stakeholder advisory committee members, especially Mr. Jorge Hernandez, was very active on the community, passing out the flyers, distributing them, and inviting people. So the work was done. That the people didn't show up, well, what can we do? They didn't show up. But one of the things that I want to stress to my council colleagues is that this is a time for us to be able to jump on this. If it is that the county comes in with any other county agency comes up with a tax measure for either air quality or transportation or whatever it may be, or even homelessness, since obviously Measure H isn't working the way we want it to work, we're going to lose out on this. We're going to pay 10.25, and we're not going to be able to profit 100% of this money. All of our surrounding cities are already at 10.25. The only ones local to us that are at 10% are El Monte and La Puente. Other than that, every other city is at 10.25. Yes, I understand, the cost of inflation and, the cost of living has gone up. I am very sensitive to that, but we also have to take into consideration that, a lot of our seniors or people who are on fixed incomes, they're not going to go to Starbucks and buy a $5 cup of coffee. They're going to purchase their coffee at the grocery store and they're going to make their coffee at home. Why? Because money is already tight. For me, if the question was to be brought to me and said, hey, you know what, we're going to be able to invest back in our home, in our community, and it's going to cost you an extra 4 cents for that $5 cup of coffee, I'm all for it. As long as I know that the money that we are going to be receiving is going to be allocated to the future of Baldwin Park. The way I see this is our chance and our opportunity to be able to bring in this additional revenue that our city desperately needs, because it's going to come down to a point to where we're not going to be able to provide the programs and the resources to the community the way they're used to. Our youth, it's very important that we work with our youth. Like Superintendent Froylan said, now we have the responsibility of making sure that our police department is patrolling our schools. So public safety is a major concern for probably 95% to 100% of the residents that we spoke with during these community meetings. So although, yes, I understand we're living in hard times, I don't know when there's going to be another time where we're going to say, we're all living in good times. We're always going to be living in hard times. I just think that one of the biggest things that we have to do as a council, if this is approved by the voters, is to make sure that we are continuing to be as transparent as we are now. And we are making sure that we have this oversight committee in place to make sure that they are allocating not only this city council, but future city councils to come in and making sure that this money is being allocated to where the community wants it to be allocated for. I've heard so many times about the sports complex, and I'm a big proponent of that. We need to be able to provide these resources and these tools and these facilities for our youth, because if not, they're going to continue to, have our youth go to other cities to play sports. So these are just some of the basic things, but I really urge, my council colleagues to really take this opportunity to think about the benefit that Measure BP will have for the future of Baldwin Park, and hope that you guys will support this measure. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you. I know I spoke on this after public comments, but I want to thank the committee members that took the time, and I know it was a lot of time that it took from your personal lives to go out there and do the outreach and do your research on what benefits we will get from the community. And I absolutely agree with Dr. Mendoza and Mayor Pro Tem Damian. Our safety is priority. Our children are priority, as I spoke before. Our police department has always patrolled all of our students and our adults. At one point, yes, we had a school police. Nevertheless, our city police was always involved as well. So it's not any different, and we need to make sure that we have the funds so that we have enough officers on the streets to continue to help our youth, to help our adults, to help everybody in the community or anybody visiting our community. We need more police officers. We need more resources for our students, for our families. So this tax measure, I think, is important. Again, if we don't take advantage, the county will. Will we be impacted if the county decides to increase the tax? Absolutely. But why not be impacted and keep it here in our community and know that we are going to benefit? We will have more policing. We will have more programs for our students. And I'm just repeating what Councilmember Damien said and what everybody else has said. I also urge our council members and our community to continue supporting this, because in the end, our youth will benefit, our future will benefit, we will all benefit. So I think it's a great idea, and I feel that we should all support this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I think Councilmember Hernandez brought up a good point on how we can kind of set when it starts and give people that that time frame in hopes that things get better for everybody. I know that I think that there's no secret that revenue is highly needed here in the city of Baldwin Park. I personally don't think that we've grown in revenue as much as we should. I think we kind of cheer when we get a couple $100,000 in surplus on our fiscal budget, and then you look next door, you look at cities like Azusa, they're making $9 million in surplus, and it kind of shows of how far behind we are. So I understand the need for that. I understand that there's growing. The cost of living doesn't just affect residents, it affects the city as well, because we have to pay into CalPERS, we have to pay our employees, we have to negotiate with the unions, and we have to make sure that we keep up to make sure that we're able to not only grow and expand, but also fund the people that are here and take care of our staff. I think that we still have time. I know that we have one more measure to vote on at the next city council meeting. I'd ask just for those 2 weeks to explore that option, and then we can make a vote then.
I wouldn't like to wait, Mayor. If I can, I would like to make a motion if no one else has anything else to say.
All right.
Mr.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, sorry.
I believe Councilmember Garcia wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that I support putting this on the ballot for our voters to decide. And the reason for that is because I want, if there is a tax increase, a sales tax increase, I want our community to have a direct benefit of that. Because if we don't capture it as a city, then there's a good probability that the county or other agencies would do that. And we wouldn't have the direct benefit in our community, where when I say direct benefit, I'm talking about improvement to our parks, improvement to, public safety and streets and everything that we depend on for a good quality of life in Baldwin Park. So I just wanted to be on record sharing my position. And it really comes down to, I believe that there will be a sales tax increase. The question is, what agency is going to capture that? And I would rather have our city do that so that there is a direct benefit to our community and our residents. Thank you.
And so real quick, does anybody know, so let's say the county did try to put a ballot measure in our city. Wouldn't the city be aware that somebody is trying to put a ballot measure for our elections? We wouldn't be caught off by surprise is what I'm asking. We would then have the time to also put something on the measure and compete with that.
Are you asking me, sir?
I'm asking whoever knows.
But let's play out that scenario. Because a county measure is voted on by the entire county, and it's our vote cannot exclude the county measure. So in effect, who gets to supersede the capacity that remains? That's a legal question, but if we were to act at the same time, I'm not sure that there's a precedence of which one would enact.
Yeah, so I guess the question would be, I mean, you wouldn't compete a municipal measure against the whole county. So would it just be our jurisdiction that votes on who gets the higher voter count? Because that's the way the county's able to see that. They go through precincts. I just want to make sure that when we say things like that the county could come in or somebody else could come in, that we're actually being legitimate as to that we could actually get, we can get caught off by surprise. Because if that's not the truth, then I want to make sure that I'm not repeating that.
Sir, I believe the city of Pico Rivera passed their similar ordinance in 2008, and that was before the county had increased any of the recent transportation or homelessness measures. And as a result, the residents of Pico Rivera don't have to pay for the benefit of those services. Was that your question?
No, what I'm asking is, a lot of the times we hear, that the county's going to come in, but if the county wanted to put a ballot measure, I think we would know, wouldn't we? Like, we would be made aware. It's going to be on our ballot. We would be made aware ahead of time. So it's not like we would get sideswiped, is what I'm asking.
I believe so. I believe there would
If I could, let me go ahead and answer that question, because I know that in the past, I've been a council member for 15 years now, and this wouldn't be the first time that the county proposed a sales tax increase. I think there was a possibility of that with their flood control system, and that was a very that was moving forward until it was pulled, and I don't even remember what year it was. But you're asking for information that it's a scenario. It's a scenario that could happen where a county agency or another agency could put something on the ballot, and we would know in advance. But why would we just kind of hang back until that happens? That's a reactive way of approaching this. I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to be proactive, and we're trying to beat other agencies to the punch. And by doing that, we can guarantee that if this does move forward, there's going to be a direct benefit in our community. So I think there's a little bit of experience that plays into this. My experience has been that the county was proposing something similar a few years ago. They pulled back on it, I think, because cities were resisting the idea at that time. And it may have had something to do with the flood control or stormwater runoff. If anybody can recall those details, feel free to share it with the mayor. But what I'm saying here is we're being proactive. We're not waiting for the moment that another agency will come in and propose that they capture those monies so that it can go to flood control systems, or it can go to other infrastructure that benefits LA County versus the direct benefit to the city of Baldwin Park. That's what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Mayor?
That still doesn't answer my question. So that's what I want to know, right?
Sure, if I may, I have the answer. So
thank you.
We all have the same deadline. And if you are asking, can we be blindsided? Is that a possibility? The answer is yes. That can happen. They can wait until August 12th, like just the rest of us, and place something on the ballot without our knowledge. They're not obligated to say they're going to take it to the voters and have the courtesy to let the city of Baldwin Park know that. They don't have an obligation to notify us. They do have an obligation to place it to the voters, like Measure H. And once Measure H moved forward to the voters and it was voted upon by the voters, then they get to take that percentage. But if you're asking is it a possibility that we could that they could blindside us? Yes. Is there a possibility that we may not be in time to have a competing measure? The answer is yes. We may not make it in time to have a competing measure.
Mayor, and I agree that we need to be proactive and get this on the ballot. Again, We are not deciding. We're just getting it on the ballot. We're giving the community the opportunity to get this tax measure in our hands if they pass it, versus giving it to LA County where we have no control over it, where we will not benefit 1 cent from it. So I feel it's important that, like Ms. Garcia said, be proactive, get that on the ballot, and once it's on the ballot, let our residents decide. I don't want to wait and be blindsided and take that chance that LA County may be doing the same thing and thinking about the same thing, because let's face it, everybody is always looking for extra money to benefit their communities, and I rather have it here in the city of Baldwin Park. Thank you. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you done, Councilmember Avila?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Again, I think we all agree that, we're in support of, based on the conversation, it sounds like we're in support of placing the item on the ballot and letting our residents decide, whether they wish to be taxed or not. I don't worry about that. My question is, again, Mayor seemed open to it. Do my other colleagues, do you seem open to when the timeline of when this increase should occur, so we can make the language now, whether that's July 1st of 2023, or as I mentioned, January 1st of 2024. So that gives people a full year to be to be aware, and so it doesn't impact them. And again, I have no problem paying the 4 cents if I'm buying a $5 coffee, but these things do impact others in different manners. So that's why, again, I just ask if there's consideration or any other suggestions in regards to the actual effective dates of the tax increase if voters were to approve, so we could make that change or denote that in the resolution this evening. So I'll turn it over.
I think that if no one has anything, I think that, giving the voters 180-day notice, 6 months, is a good sufficient amount of time. I mean, at the end of the day, we are taking it to the voters. They are going to be aware. If they are going to pass it, some of them are even going to probably think that it's going to take effect as of January 1st, 2023. But in reality, it won't take effect until 6 months after this is passed. I think that our future generations are going to thank the city council in the future. If we pass this measure, I would like to make a motion to pass this item as it stands.
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian.
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila.
Yes.
Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor Manuel Estrada.
I'll abstain. Thank you for that,
Motion
City
passes.
Clerk. And then now we go back to our consent calendar, and we have items 1 through 6. Is there any items? I believe Councilwoman said item number 4. Is there any other items anybody is looking to pull? If not, I'll make a motion to pass items number 1 through 6, excluding item number 4. Also, can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Manuel Estrada.
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila.
Yes.
Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Councilwoman Avila, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say I am very excited about the Zocalo Park. It would be a great benefit to the community. We're speaking about tax dollars and how we can bring money to our community to improve our community and provide more parks, more recreation for our students. And this is an example of one of the things that can be done if we're able to bring more funds to our community. And again, I'm very excited. It's moving forward. I wish it would have been a little faster, but I know there's a lot of processes. I'm nothing bad on you, but I'm just so excited that I just want to see it flourish and I want to be able to take advantage of it. And so I suggested naming the Park Plaza after Senator Susan Rubio. Senator Susan Rubio has been a community resident, a resident of Baldwin Park for 20 years, and she has served our city in many different areas. She was a city clerk for 4 years. She was a 9-year council member for our city of Baldwin Park. Not only that, she was also a teacher here in the city of Baldwin Park. She has touched our community in many ways, from the youngest to the oldest, in many ways. She has, in 2015, I believe it was, this project was first brought to mind. And it was a project that everybody was in agreement, and they were going to move forward. I mean, moving forward, it didn't happen, so here we are again, approving this project. It was already approved. So now I really would like to take the time and let everybody know the things Senator Rubio has done. She's also a member of the Baldwin Parks Women's Club. She's been a member for 15 years. As I said, she's involved with all ages. She belonged to the Sister City program for 10 years, and what that is you adopt a city from, and in this case was Mexico, it was Taxco, Mexico, and they help those cities, underprivileged cities, provide for students. She continued her work for students. She was part of the Julia McNeil Senior Center opening. She was already here at that time. She worked very close with the Baldwin Park Police Department when it came to the domestic violence program. She also she was here when we constructed the parking structure back there, and she was part of the dedication of that as well. She was part of the improvement for Morgan Park, Barnes Park, the skate park, and the new nature parks that are in the process of opening up. So again, here we are. She was part of all these parks. She upgraded the reopening of the Superior Shopping Center. So if you recall, they did a big upgrade on that center. So she was also part of that. She has helped with dozens of housing projects. She has been a great partner in the city. If you recall, we didn't have a monument at the entrance of the city of Baldwin Park, and now we have signs that say, "Welcome to the city of Baldwin Park." On Ramona with a nice fountain, right here on Pacific with beautiful flowers and planters. The same here on Ramona, on the east side of Ramona. There's also a nice entryway that says, "Welcome to the city of Baldwin Park." Not only that, she provided $6 million to put this project in place, not because she wanted it named after her. That wasn't even in the talks. But she immediately said that she would help us build this park. And those $6 million are for us, correct, Sam? So I don't see any other better person than to name this park after Senator Susan Rubio and all the involvement she has had and all the change and the good impact she has done to our communities. So I'm excited to move forward and with the approval of the rest of my colleagues to name this park Susan Rubio Zocalo Park, and what was the full name? I don't even remember. Civic Center Plaza. It's very exciting. I think it would be an honor. I was a little disappointed to hear that the city of La Puente named a park after Senator Rubio before we did, before her hometown. So, I mean, we can't stay behind. She has done a lot for us. She continues to move the San Gabriel Valley forward. She has worked to provide funding for housing. She provided a lot of the funding for the tiny homes that we built that were so successful. She works with the COG, and she's always working to see what else she can provide, not just for Baldwin Park, but for the San Gabriel Valley. So those were my comments with that, and if nobody else has any comments, I'll wait to see if anybody has any comments before I make a motion. No comments? So with all that said, I would like to make a motion to pass item number 4, the nomination to name park element of the Zocalo Park and Civic Center Plaza project to name it Susan Rubio Zocalo Park and Civic Center Plaza. So I would like to nominate Ms. Rubio for this honor. That's my motion.
Great. So before we vote, so is this just to nominate it and then it goes to community input?
Manny, do you want to give the details on that, please?
Yes, it's the great question, Mr. Mayor. This is a city council decision. If you should approve it this evening, then the new facility will be called Susan Rubio Sokola Park and Civic Center Plaza. So no, we would not be taking this back out to the community.
Thank you, Manny.
Is there a second?
I will second.
City Clerk, roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Monica Garcia. Oh, Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
and Mayor Emanuel Estrada.
I'll abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And just so for the record, I abstained because when I first came into council, I stopped the naming of a different building for somebody else. And so I just don't feel comfortable getting involved in the naming of a different structure for someone else. But that being said, I'm very aware of all the benefits that Susan Rubio has brought into our community. And if it wasn't for Senator Susan Rubio, we wouldn't have the tiny homes. We wouldn't have the Tiny Homes 2.0, and for that I'm grateful because one of the biggest issues is that we've been paying into Measure H and we don't see any of that funding. That's on a whole different topic, but to be getting funding that's coming through the COG and it's coming in through the Regional Housing Trust because of the state, I think is a pretty big deal. So I am very confident that she's deserving of this, but on a personal basis, I just don't want to seem like I'm picking and choosing. And then we do have a reports of officers. So for fiscal year 22-23, fiscal budget amendment review. And I believe, Rose, do you want to take the lead on this item?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. On June 15, when I presented the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022 and 23, and I also presented the personnel request. With City Council's direction, asked staff to go back to seek other funding source to come up to help to fill those requested positions, and we came back to look for different funding that are available for those requests. So we come back to City Council, and as I stated on the list, we are going to propose to use about $63,855,000 from the general fund, and about $780,000 from the special revenue and other funds. And with the total request, the estimate cost is about $844,000. And within that, we also recommend to use about $270,000 to fund this request. And the $270,000 mainly is going to be from ARPA fund to fund the rehiring of the part-time staff from the recreation department due to restarting many community programs and events. And that's my summary of the funding source for this request. And I also include the list of all the requests from each department. And we are going to take directions from the City Council. Then we'll bring back you the final revised proposed budget for 22-23. Thank you. Any questions from the
Rose-
City Council?
Rose, how many full-time employees are going to be added?
To the request?
Based on the funding, the total number.
Okay. There will be one full-time position added to this request, which is the community service officer. And there's other full-time position added to the request is the IT technician position. However, this position mainly is to replace the consultant services for PD, IT support. And with that, because we are going to reduce the current consultant fee, we pay about $96,000. And with this position include all the benefits, and it would cost the city about additional $3,800. And there is other full-time position requests from the city clerk, and that is the administrative clerk 2. And if this full-time position filled and they propose to freeze or eliminate the current part-time position. And also there is actually not an additional full-time position from HR. They request to unfreeze the HR technician position. And other full-time position will be from Public Works. Public Works proposed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions, correct? Yeah. And however, those requested full-time positions are going to be used special revenue funds. And there are other part-time position and reclassification included in this request. Also, the total cost include part-time salary adjustment, making the minimum wages to $16.82 per hour. Because of the proposed adjustment for the part-time minimum wages, which kind of impact the full-time administrative 1 and 2 position, and we are going to propose to adjust these 2 positions also. Any questions from the City Council?
Which ones are the reclassifications? I was looking for it. Sorry.
Okay. The first reclassification is for the IT position, right. And we will reclass the IT technician to information analyst. And the cost for this reclassification is about $5,398.
Is that yearly or monthly? What is that?
Annually. Okay. And the second reclassification request is from the finance department. We are going to reclass one of the finance clerk position to the management assistant position, which is critical needed because this individual have been provide last assistance to the management and in many areas. And however, the reclassification of this request not really cost extra money to the city because I also at the same time propose to freeze 2 part-time positions. So at the end, we are providing about $20-some thousand to savings to the city.
But you're freezing 2 positions that eventually you'll need filled, so that'll increase our.
I might not unfreeze these 2 positions in few years. It depends on the economy and how things go.
But the unfreeze can only be approved by the city council. So we wouldn't be able to unfreeze it on our own.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever we need to unfreeze any position, we have to bring back to the city council for their approval. Right. And of course, with justification. And the third reclassification is for the recreation department. They are going to reclass or upgrade the senior center program coordinator to program supervisor. The estimate cost to this position is about $8,000 annually.
Does that increase their medical, or is 8,000 total for the year, including medical and all that?
The total estimate is 8,000. Okay. They are from general fund.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you. Any other question for any other positions?
Sorry, I can't read the tiny writing.
I do have a question, Rose. In the community development department for the housing financial analyst, it says for grant funding and reporting. What type of reporting would that be?
And I will let Ron or his housing manager respond to these questions.
Yes, thank you, Rose. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. The housing division is responsible for the housing division itself and also separately the housing authority. This position, this part-time position, we bring attention to it because due to the added programs since the pandemic, and those include CDBG coronavirus, home art funding, and the new project-based voucher program. In addition to those, receiving funding for new emergency housing voucher, the HV program, and lastly, the rent stabilization ordinance. So the housing division during that time has taken on 5 additional new programs. So essentially this position would assist the housing manager in monitoring all the housing programs within the division and the housing authority to make sure that those programs comply financially and programmatically with HUD.
And would this position, if approved, Ron, allow for the housing department to catch up on reportings and reports and things that they have been backed up in the past?
It would. This part-time position, Carol, if Carol is present, if she can add any more specifics, but essentially this position would help monitor that. Again, there isn't anyone below Carol, the housing manager, to assist with that technical help. and making sure that they work with the finance department, that these programs, again, comply programmatically and financially with HUD.
Okay. All right. Now, okay, so would this alleviate some of the workload and allow for the housing department to catch up on whatever backlog they have?
Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, that will be assisting the division. As you may know, we have the waiting list for the Housing Authority open. We are going to put about 5,000 families in the waiting list, and HUD is requiring that we issue between 40 and 70 vouchers per month. So that will also increase the volume of work that we have. So our staff is pretty much, on a little bit of an overload because we have all the other 5 programs. And so we will need assistance. And also just because HUD is also requesting that we track our funding and have some check and balances to make sure that we are in compliance and that we are meeting all the requirements.
Perfect. So Carol, this will alleviate some of the backlog workload that you guys have by adding additional position. Okay. Thank you for that, Carol. Sure. And then regarding the HR department, I know there's going to be a change in the future here. Would it be possible to maybe have this be reevaluated when that time is here to see what he or she may possibly need at that point in time?
Mayor Pro Tem, I know Laura is here for sure, but because we're speaking of the post-Laura time now, I probably should also say something. I mean, we're definitely in desperate need in the HR department for help now, especially to be able to take advantage of the fact that Laura is still here and prepare this person, if we can hire this person quickly to get them going. And yes, of course, when the new person gets onboarded, which should be just in time before Laura leaves, then I mean, because we're just struggling in staff availability in HR. But Laura, if you can please speak more to it.
Thank you, Enrique, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. And thank you for that question, Mayor Pro Tem Damian. As Enrique had mentioned, the Human Resources Department, is responsible, as you know, for internal support services, and that involves a myriad of activities, including our risk management, which is probably the biggest, represents the biggest part of our workload in the department, because in risk management, it does involve working with PRISM, our insurance provider, constantly, daily reporting of emails and reporting via email on the status of insurance and coverages. Sometimes we do contract reviews. We also are involved heavily on the employee relations side, which is investigations and regular monitoring of that, and working closely with departments, including the police department, on all of the investigations and keeping those up. Also, claims and workers' compensation claims and liability claims is really heavy. That's a daily task of monitoring and making sure we're reviewing and corresponding and working with departments. And so all of that sort of adds up, and it represents probably about 75% of our workload, and that does not even include other daily activities of other activities that we are involved in that we work closely with finance on, and that's on the payroll side. So that's another huge part of our workload is the payroll entries in the Tyler system and PAF processing. Those are daily activities that really absorb a lot of time in our department. And I hope I don't sound like I'm whining or anything, because everyone is working super hard, and I don't want to do cry me a river kind of thing, but the reality is that we are thinly staffed in our department, and the workload continues to increase. So I hope that helped to kind of answer the question, Sam. If not, I'm happy to comment.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I
Yes,
don't know
Councilmember
if it's
Avila.
appropriate, but are you going to fly this position, and what kind of experience are you going to require? HR experience, I'm sure?
Absolutely. We are flying the recruitment. And yes, we definitely are looking for a seasoned professional who's has supervisory and mid-level management experience, and who's pretty familiar with a lot of the areas of human resources. And of course, there'll have to be some training and acclimating to Baldwin Park, right, and learning about the particulars. But we really do need a seasoned person coming in who's worked in a variety of areas. Risk management, employee relations, and labor relations are very important areas that we need.
Yes, and that's why I asked, because I know HR is a very complicated department that requires a lot of detailed attention to a lot of the areas you mentioned. So I do want to make sure that when we look for somebody, that is somebody fully qualified, because we can't let anything fall through the cracks, to make sure that everything's being taken care of.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Avila. Yeah, we definitely are looking for the most seasoned and experienced, and also someone who can work really collaboratively with our CEO and city council. And so those are some other important qualities that we're looking for, because we've got a great team here of directors and managers and council. Just everyone's a great team. So we really want someone who can set the tone for having a good rapport with everyone in the organization. Any other questions about the human resources request or from any of the council?
I'm good. Thank you, Laura.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so no questions, no comments. And so, Rose, what is the next step?
The next one, we are seeking the city council's final direction. And if you approve all of the requests, that means I will go back to adjust the budget accordingly, and will bring you back the revised budget in the next city council meeting.
What are you estimating our budget's going to look like if we approve all of this?
I apologize. Could you please repeat the question one more time?
What do you project, just estimate what our budget's going to look like if all of this was to get approved?
If all of this got approved, the total estimate impact would be about $844,000, and that would be about $64,000 to the general fund, and $270,000 will be contributed from the ARPA fund, as you directed us to look into that. And we look into that, and we can get the funding from the ARPA fund for rehiring staff for the reopening of the program. And also, there will be about little bit over $500,000 impact to the special revenue fund. With that together, it adds up for about $844,000 total impact if everything requested are approved from this list.
So 844,000 in the red, is that what you're saying?
No.
No.
So I think,
64, got it.
yeah, if I may jump in, Rose. So I guess what Councilmember Avila's asking is, this is going to have a $63,855 impact to our general fund. So once you go back and adjust the budget, what will our budget look like? Will we have a surplus, and if so, of how much?
Yes,
Or
that was.
will we have a deficit, and if so, how much?
Thank you for
Red or green? What is it?
As you may know, I always work on this number very carefully and go over them again and again to do many exercise. Went through many exercise.
Short answer, red or green?
Green. I would not put the city in red. The revised budget come back to you, it will still show green.
Okay, very important. That's very important to mention that we will not be in the red. We never want to work on the red. We always want to stay on the green. And although services are needed and we need to provide services, we always need to keep in mind that we need to be conservative and make sure that when we are implementing programs or we are adding staff, that we are in the green and that we have a budget that's going to work for the rest of the community and not have to sit here and worry about certain things passing or certain things not passing. Are we getting money from here and there? I want to make sure that when you're doing these type of numbers and these kind of changes and looking for funds from different areas, that regardless, we stay in the green. And put it in simple words.
Yes, that's my intention. And
Thank you.
also, please put in mind that we are going to contribute $270,000 from the ARPA fund. And for the next fiscal year, we allocated $270,000 also.
Okay.
So hopefully, staff will continue work and very hard to go look for other revenue source to cover the future costs.
No pressure, Ron. Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Rose, I have a question.
Yes.
Of the total positions that are being funded by the special fund and the ARPA funds, how many of those are full-time positions? Because my concern is what's our strategy to maintain those positions after we're done with the ARPA funds? Because again, the ARPA funds are for a limited time, but yet these positions will continue to be here with us. So can you tell me how many full-time positions are being funded through the ARPA funds?
In other words, what we are doing now is to use $270,000 to fund the part-time positions in recreation, which is eligible. That means we free up $270,000 from the general fund and other funds to fund the requested position. And that's the reason I mentioned that after the ARPA funding period, in the future years, we are going to need about $300,000 because of the cost of living can continue to increase.
Though the question from Councilmember Hernandez, just full-time, we're not attributing any full-time positions to ARPA.
Perfect. So these are all
At
the
this
part.
time, yes.
We're
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So what's being proposed today again is, thank you, Enrique. So that's just all the part-time positions, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. So if there's no more questions or comments, we can go ahead and take action on this item. Does anybody have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can make a motion to accept the recommendations and the funding allocations as indicated in the staff report, with the caveat that when staff comes back, that the numbers do reflect as presented today. That is my motion.
Second.
All right. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember, I guess Monica Garcia is gone. Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you for that, City Clerk. And then we do move on to item number 8, approval of resolution number 2022-037, ordering the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Baldwin Park a certain measure relating to campaign contribution limits and penalties at the general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 8, 2022. I think we've talked about this, and we did pass this, but I think it is pretty important that we pass this on to the voters, and it seems like we'd be doing this with a minimal impact to the cost of elections. And then I believe that we still have we're still waiting on the to take action on the term limits. Is that correct, Chief Deputy City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor. We will bring back term limits at the next City Council meeting for your approval.
Great, thank you. So if nobody has any questions or comments, I know that we've discussed this thoroughly in previous meetings. I'll make a motion to pass item number 8.
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila, Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you for that. And we do move to City Council acting as a successor agency of the dissolved Community Development Commission. I'll make a motion to pass that consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, and then I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar for the Housing Authority regular meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you for that. And then I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar for the Baldwin Park Finance Authority regular meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Manuel Estrada,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandra Avila,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daniel Damian,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you for that. And I believe we are at the end of our agenda.
Mr. Mayor, if I may real quick.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. And this is a clarification item for our city attorney. Back to item number 8, in the staff report, there's a track mark with a comment there. I don't know if that was our city clerk or someone from staff that provided that comment. Has that been resolved? It's in the attachment that we have. I don't know if that was just an oversight and wasn't accepted, or I just want to make sure that that was not on purpose for us to discuss tonight.
Just a moment, Councilmember Hernandez. I'm locating that.
Yes, that would be on page 125 of our electronic agenda. But again, there's no page numbers here on the document, so I can't. It's the resolution that's attached to the staff report.
Is it item 8?
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, it
Yeah.
does. It does look like it was a comment made by one of our consultants, and it has not been incorporated into the resolution as of this time.
Okay, has that been resolved amongst staff in regards to their suggestion that they have here?
That is correct, Councilmember Hernandez. It's been corrected, and I just, it was my oversight to leave the comment, but the comment was taken and the verbiage was modified.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Just for
Thank you.
clarification.
Great. And so at this moment, we are going to resume closed session. So all of our regular meeting official business is come to an end.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Tough Kids, for being here.